BM everyone. Welcome back to Weaving Web 3. We are at ETHCC at Berachain, and now I'm speaking with a project that I'm hella bloody excited about because I just found them months ago. Well, not.
It's been a few months.
Just a few months, just out of the blue, and now I'm meeting in person. Could you give us a little intro?
Awesome. Hi guys, I'm Chris from Sunrise. We're building a data availability layer for proof of liquidity. Something I'm really excited about. We just launched our testnet last week, crossed 40K users, and then most recently 50K. So yeah, we're building some really cool infrastructure and scaling solutions, and tied into the Berachain ecosystem, of course, via proof of liquidity.
Why did you decide to choose proof of liquidity data availability?
We originally were looking to build out some yield tokenization products ourselves, and we looked at launching our own rollup and kind of the process that would entail. And we realized there wasn't really a solution that kind of fit all of our needs. And so we also looked at the Berachain ecosystem, kind of exploring deploying on there. And we realized this intersection between DA and proof of liquidity hadn't been explored yet. And so we kind of realized that there was some unique functionality we could actually build out when we combine those two, right? And a lot of it has to do with incentive alignment that proof of liquidity brings, but also fee abstraction for the DA layer level, which is something that we think is pretty huge for roll-up developers.
For sure. So like, what is the attractiveness of using proof of liquidity, right? What advantages do users get using you, right?
Yeah. So at the Berachain level, proof of liquidity incentivizes and aligns liquidity and security on the validator level, but also at the LP level. And that was something that we were looking at in data availability, was alignment between the DA layer and the roll-up developer. And so right now, the fee mechanisms of DA layers are very like, this is a infrastructure provider, and I'm providing a service, and here's our fee, right? And now you are entering that fee ecosystem as a developer at your expense. And so we realized that alignment between liquidity could also be replicated for roll-up developers. And basically we could bootstrap liquidity for rollups using the rollup's native token, right? Replicating the proof of liquidity process, replicating the ability to LP in order to participate in security, and then enhance the security of rollups. And so we wanted to replicate that process in kind of like the larger modular infrastructure.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's getting my brain kind of ticking, right? So like, as a user, what would you like to see being done using Sunrise? Or as a developer, like, how would you like to see people implementing you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I want to see developers be able to take advantage of kind of this additional utility for roll-up tokens, right? Right now, I think there's a lot of different ways that we could look at modular liquidity. And so, taking that kind of narrative and actually exploring it at the roll-up level or at the layer 2 level is like really huge for us. And we're kind of operating in a couple of different verticals. Obviously, anyone could take advantage of the modular stack.
For sure.
But we're looking at use cases, high throughput use cases that range from gaming to AI, et cetera. And so like working with gaming devs and saying, okay, well, how can we take like the native token of whatever you're building and actually use that to build liquidity and security for your protocol?
That's awesome. So if I was going to do something like that, what would be like the most like thing that I should be focusing on? Because like often there's like all this fragmentation, and how can you overcome that using like Sunrise? And like, is there a way that will benefit users in the long term? Why should they be with you otherwise? There are many, I guess there'll be other options in the future, but what makes you stand out?
Absolutely. I think obviously being kind of the first player to do this proof of liquidity at the DA level gives us an advantage to kind of like integrate modular liquidity and integrate liquidity from other ecosystems. So in the same way that Berachain is expected to have a really strong liquidity environment, really strong DeFi environment, we want to replicate that at the roll-up level. And so the really interesting thing is like being able to input or intake liquidity from external ecosystems, not just from Berachain, but from kind of the larger blockchain space, and run that through Sunrise, right? And so create this really strong environment for modular builders that interact with Sunrise, right? It's almost going to get to a point where as adoption for data availability grows, as we kind of experience chain abstraction, it kind of gets simpler to onboard into modular infra, into this space. And so that's something that we're trying to help that process along.
So what would you like to see? Like, would you want to see like the big, let's say, chains onboarding to you and then being able to utilize that liquidity on, let's say, Berachain to get those extra yields? Because often with many like tokens, that are just sitting there, they don't earn a yield, right? You can't really make advantage of that, especially for people that want a long-term hold. But I guess with proof of liquidity, you can, let's say, earn those extra BGT tokens and stuff, and you essentially enabling users to get more out of what they have right now.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of different approaches. The first is working with pre-existing layer 2s and kind of offering them this unique functionality of saying, hey, you can use your token to secure your layer 2. You can use proof of liquidity while tapping into DA. And so working with pre-existing developers, but then also bootstrapping new developers or new projects is really key to us because I think the hardest thing is, again, liquidity fragmentation. And it's building liquidity for a brand new rollup, right? How do you secure and build that liquidity when you're starting off fresh? And this is an environment and methodology to do that. And so we can now bootstrap liquidity for devs, for protocol builders, very early on in the process, right? Really make that process easy for someone who's trying to launch a new rollup.
And what's like the struggle, let's say, building Sunrise right now? Like, what is the hardest thing that you've like kind of encountered that you would like to help people in the future with?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us is like, finding a methodology that's sustainable when you're trying to build infrastructure, when you're on the app side, right? So like I mentioned, we originally started off on like yield tokenization, and we realized one of the issues we were going to run into is if we deployed this tech as a sovereign rollup onto other DA layers, we would still suffer from liquidity fragmentation ourselves. Like we explored and investigated and kind of did all this research. It's like, okay, well, how do we like build liquidity for ourselves? And that's what ultimately led us to proof of liquidity. So like we literally came across this issue in our own kind of process.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we realized, all right, well, if it doesn't exist, let's build the solution ourselves.
Okay, awesome. And what are you most excited and in the next few months going to happen for you guys? Like, what is going to be looking for you?
Yeah, I mean, right now, the testnet is the biggest one. It's been a huge success. Incentivized public testnet is live right now. V2 will be coming out shortly where we add new functionality. And then we're on the road to mainnet right now. We launched our testnet. We celebrated, and then now we're back on to getting the mainnet ready. And so that's the biggest thing for us is having it live. Right now, our trajectory, we put it around Q3 of this year. And so that's kind of, it's coming out quickly. We're here already. And we want to try to get this out before the end of the year. So
get ready for Berachain mainnet, hands on deck,
mainnet,
right?
Yeah, all hands on deck for mainnet.
And is there anything else that you really want to get out to people to be like, check us out, what we're doing, like what's like the final message you want to give out to like the people and community?
Yeah, follow us on Twitter and use the Sunrise testnet. It's designed to be used daily. It's a reflection of the types of transactions that people will be able to use on Sunrise mainnet. So if you use Sunrise testnet, you'll already be ahead of the curve, and get rewarded, get the incentives, and participate, join our community.
Yeah, and I think it's important for you. At the end of the day, you need people to batter your testnet, destroy it as much as possible, and then you can be like, we're not going to have that when the mainnet launches, right? So we need the people to basically find the problems and then fix it for the future, right?
Absolutely. Like, please break our testnet as much as possible, and I'm being very serious because that helps us build a more resilient product.
Absolutely. Wow, this was an amazing talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sunrise is the best DA layer.
I appreciate that.
Thanks.